What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zevil War Games, and today I am bringing you Adventure Synchro Profile. Now this is definitely like the middle ground between playing pure synchros and then adventure synchros, and I've really enjoyed putting this together. It definitely has a couple of different tips and tricks and changes and everything else. So at the end of the video I'll also show you a 2-card combo using its core cards, which is of course Jet Synchron and access to the adventure package. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe. If you get the video above 50 likes in the first 24 hours, I will bring you the pure Synchron version as well. So with all of that out of the way, let's dive headfirst into the profile. We'll start off with the tuners / synchrons. So we do go with triple Jet Synchron, followed up by triple Assault Synchron, double Stardust Synchron, and 1 Revolution Synchron. Now, I only own 1 Revolution Synchron. I'm not sure if I would play 3 if I had 3. Possibly would, just because there are combos with Rev Synchron plus Right. But the issue isn't really getting to your Synchrons because you play so many different search cards. It's probably more so getting to Right that's probably a little bit more of an issue. But this lineup has been working pretty nicely for me. You'll see it in the combo. You only really need to go through these ones each. Stardust is the only one you need to go through twice. And then the best thing about the Assault Synchron and the Jet Synchron is that obviously Jet Synchron is your main starter and Assault can allow you to extend that little bit further as well. For the non-tuners, we've got the 1 Trail, which obviously comes off the back of Stardust. And then we are playing the Reborn Tengu engine. I'm not sure how set I am on the Reborn Tengu. It's great if you open it, don't get me wrong. But the issue is it then shifts. It then means that you don't want your starter, like it goes from a 2-card combo to a very good 3-card combo because you can't really use your normal summon on Jet Synchron. So you would then open up the Rite of Armoricia or a route to the adventure package plus Tengu, and then you need a way to special summon out Jet Synchron or Assault Synchron. Don't get me wrong, if you get them, it's absolutely amazing because you're constantly spawning a non-tuner to the board, at least for 2 more turns. The other downside is it only specials from the deck, which is a bit of a pain in the backside if you do open up multiples. So it is a bit of a risk and reward, and especially when you're drawing loads of cards through your TG Hyper Librarian, it can be one of the ones that's like, okay, cool, I've now got 2 Tengus in my hand for a follow-up, which isn't great. It is a 45-card deck, so you could look at cutting the Tengu if you wanted to, but I think it's just so good that it's worth that risk and reward. I'm also playing the Illusion package or the Magician's Souls package. What I really like about this is because, and this is mainly because I'm playing so many different search spells, so you've got Fateful and Dracoback, which are just basically 2 free sends to draws. Additional copies of On Your Mark, Get Set, Duel. Again, great free draw fodder. And then you've got a bit of everything else. So it gives you a nice capability of being able to draw stuff, while also being a free level 1 extender, which can be very useful when you've already gone through Junk Speeder, set up your Synchron boards, or got your tuners on the board. It can then give you access to stuff like Herald of the Arclight, and it can be that additional level 1 you might need to get into one of your higher levels. The reason we've got 2 and 2 is obviously Illusion searches out Souls. Souls can send Illusion. And then obviously you kind of want to see, ideally you want to send your Illusions first would be really great. But even if you see your Souls, it means you can play around Draw and Lockbird a little bit better. Ratio of 2 and 2 works out perfectly fine for me. Again, it can be adapted to personal preference. Then for the adventure package, we are playing triple Water Enchantress, 1 Illegal Ritter or Illegal Knight, and then 1 Griffin Rider. So this is just so the engine can function as a go second option and a go first option. You can cut the Illegal Knight if you want to, but I still think it's a really kind of good option to interrupt your opponent. And if you do hard open either one of these and still have access to the right combo, it just becomes a free level 7 extender, which is really cool. Then, of course, you are playing triple Rite of Armoricia, followed by the 1 Fateful Adventure and the 1 Dracoback, the Rideable Dragon. Keeping in mind as well that you do probably want to technically count a Foolish Burial as part of this engine, as 9 times out of 10 your Foolish Burial will get you access to the right engine. Yes, it can set Jet Synchron, it can set the Stardust, but those are cards you don't really want to have to send through Foolish Burial. Carrying on with the generic spells, or I say generic spells, the spells that then get you your Synchrons. So we now play triple Overtake, or we always were playing Overtake at 3. We're always playing triple Tune-In, and I'm still personally playing triple On Your Mark. Now, obviously, On Your Mark is probably the worst of all of them, but at the end of the day, I now have 9 spells that can either become an extender in Salt, an extender in Rev Dragon, or it can become my starter in Jet. So like, I've got so many different ways to get to it. Synchron Overtake is probably that little bit better because not only can it add, but it can also special, so it can be utilised under draw. Tuning is obviously, again, just search out any Synchron tuner, and then being able to get On Your Mark to get you any Synchron monster, so it doesn't have to be a tuner, is very important. If this does get left on your board for 2 standby phases, which, you know, very rare in this day and age of the game, but you do get additional bonuses from it as well. More times than not, like if I'm opening up like this plus Magician's Soul and access to the right, or even this plus Magician's Soul, activate this, get me Jet, Magician's Soul summons itself down, or don't even need to get Jet, I can get like Stardust. At least with Stardust, like a normal summon of Stardust plus Magician's Souls gives you straight into speeder plays, but you can also just sack this off, get the draw, and if you get into right, you're just happy days, you're gaining so much more advantage for pretty much nothing. In the hand trap space, I've gone with 2 talents and 2 droplets. Entirely up to you. These can be Ash Blossoms if you want to, but the way I kind of saw it was, if I'm going first, yeah, it's all well and good getting into an Ash Blossom or drawing into an Ash Blossom, but I'd much rather draw into a droplet than an Ash Blossom, because the one thing that's going to break my board, at the end of the day, anything that I can Ash, I can probably negate with my monster on the board. So the worst thing that my opponent could possibly do against this Synchron deck is a Dark Ruler me. Like, even he's not that big of an issue. Nibiru, again, you can play around it if you know what you're doing, and Dark Ruler is probably the biggest one that you can't have a response to. So having something like Droplet can be like nearly invaluable, because you'll be able to send your monsters that are now useless to you and still negate and interrupt your opponent, which is why we're also playing Preview, the 1 Manadium Reframing, and I'll explain that when we get to the extra deck. Then of course you've got your one-ofs that are either bricks or power cards. So Illumination is a Foolish Burial or a special from the deck for your trail. The Foolish Burial itself, which your main target, like I've already mentioned, is going to be your Water Enchantress to give you access to your right. So it's technically an adventure card in this part, but it can also be used to go for something like your Jet Synchron if you absolutely need to. And then you can also Foolish Burial stuff like your Stardust as well. 1 for 1, because Jet is so important as a starter, which is why obviously free Overtake, free Jet, 1 for 1, you're good to rock and roll. And then the last card, of course, is the 1 Manadium Reframing. This is just a searchable counter trap. It will negate the card or negate the activation. If you have Visa Starfrost or a monster with exactly 1500 attack and 21 on defense on your field or in a graveyard, you can destroy that negated card. So that's it for the main deck. Moving on into the extra deck. So this is where obviously all of the power plays come from. You can see you've got a lot of low level tuners, nothing with like hugely high attack, which is really, really important. So that's where your extra deck becomes even more important. So you start off from 12s down. So we do have the 1 Crimson Dragon. Who made this card? Like, this is crazy. So again, for those of you that don't know, if it's special zones, you get to add a spell trap that mentions Crimson Dragon from your deck to the hand. And we don't play it, but you could if you want to play the Synchron Overtop. This basically just allows you to summon back as many level 7 or 8 Dragon Synchron monsters in the graveyard, but you reduce them to attack to 0, level to 0, and their effects are negated. On top of that, you have a quick effect that you can target 1 level 7 or higher Synchro monster from on your field except itself. Return this card to the extra deck, and if you do, you special summon a Dragon Synchro monster from your extra deck with the same level as the targeted monster, and it is treated as a Synchro summon. Now the reason that is so insanely good is it allows you to cheat out a Disbatter, because it will allow you to cheat out the Disbatter off the back of a Baron. So you make a Baron, you also get a free Disbatter as well. If that wasn't enough, you can also, the fact that you can target any level 10 or any level 7 or higher is insane, and then summon out a dragon. So it then gives you access to stuff like, you can cheat out a Crystal Wing if you want to as well, which is crazy. Crystal Wing, Omega, and then obviously the Visas Aritara. Then of course we've got the Stardust, so we've got the 1 Axel, and we've got the 1 normal Stardust. So actually playing Stardust is quite important, because it gives you that ability to special summon Trail from the deck, while also when you tag out your Axel, you make this indestructible, plus you bring out your Speeder or whatever you then synchro with your board, which you'll see in the combo, then becomes protected from the Nibiru as well. We've got 1/7 in the form of Black Rose, just a nice little board nuke, and then on top of that as well, if you're going to board nuke your opponent, if you've got something like a Reborn Tengu, you've just got the ability to kind of allow that to float that bit more as well. For the 6, we've got the Charge Warrior. You can very change this up as well if you wanted to. This can very easily be Riser Dragon. In my opinion, is probably the next best option. Then, of course, we've got the 1 Jet Warrior. This is obviously because it has Jet Synchron in the name, so your Overtake is going to reveal this to summon it. Herald of the Art Light, along with a Speeder, a Librarian, and of course an Axel. So again, all pretty straightforward on this one. This is like your most insane Synchro monster. Gets everything going as long as it doesn't get negated. And then of course you've got your Hyper Librarian to give you as many draws as you possibly want. And you've got your Axel to adapt its level until the end of days in order to kind of give you exactly what you need to then climb up higher into your stronger Synchro monsters. Now that's one thing that this version does have in opposed to a normal pure junk Synchron deck, is it focuses a lot more on the higher level monsters than the lower levels in the stuff like Herald, Machine Fortress, the Mechana level 3, plus the level 2 and everything else. And you don't use Doppel Warrior to spawn tokens and go on and go on and go on. So that's it for the profile. I'm now going to show you the 2-card combo that keeps it all ticking. To end off the video, here is a basic 2-card combo that utilizes the whole core of this deck. So as you can see, it's Jet, Synchron, and Right are your main 2 go-tos. You can see the different ways you can get into Jet, and you can see into the different ways that you can get into the Right as well. Obviously, going to be a little bit more trickier to get to Right as you've got less consistent ways to do so, but once you do get to it, the deck just goes off. Shout out on the combo to 037 Wolf, who is obviously the master of Synchron. I will put his link to his full-on combo video in the description below, so you can see all the different variants as well. I just wanted to kind of encapsulate the profile with a combo so you know where to get started. So we are going to start off with the basic of having direct access to Jet and Right. You're going to start off by activating the Right, and this is going to spawn you the token, while also resolving to activate the Fateful Adventure in the Spell and Trap Zone. You will then be able to normal summon your Jet Synchron, which will trigger Fateful to allow you to add the Draco back, and then use Fateful's effect to add the Griffin Rider and discard the Draco back, which will then re-equip itself to the Adventure token. Now this is the best kind of play because if you do also have Magician's Souls in the board, these can then become 2 additional draws as well, but we're going to go off the base minimum of everything we have. This is a bit more of a protective option, which allows you to play through a Nibiru as well, which is why I'm showing you this version and not all of the other ones. I have specifically, as you saw in the profile, avoided the Calamity Lock, but if you wanted to go down that route, again, it is very easily doable. We're then going to special summon down the Griffin Rider. We're only on 3 summons, but we're kind of protected in a sense of what we want to do. You're now going to come out of your negation protection, so to speak, and you're going to synchro these 2 up, and you're going to go into an Axel Stardust. Now, obviously, the reason that Axel Stardust is so good is at the moment we're only on our 4th summon, so we're not in the Nibiru territory. You now have the ability of being able to bring back the Jet Synchron off of the back of the Axel. We are now in the 5th. Now at this point, if your opponent wants to Nibiru you, they can do, but then you can very easily chain the Axel, and the Axel will then protect what you summon on the board, so it doesn't make any difference. They really want to Nibiru you after you attempt to use the effect of Axel, and then as it resolves, you'd still do as much as you can. So at this point here, we're going to use Axel's effect, we're going to tribute this off, and this is going to allow us to special summon out a Stardust Dragon, and then immediately Synchro summon using monsters you control. It doesn't have to use the Stardust, but the 2 cards that it does summon off the back of this will be protected. So the Stardust is protected and the Speeder is protected. So if the Nibiru does come down, yes, you'll lose the 3 monsters on resolution after this, but you'll still the 4 monsters, but you'll still have Speeder and Stardust with a Jet Synchron in the graveyard, and you would have already resolved the Synchro effects that are all going to float. So the Synchrons you're going to be summoning out of the deck will be 1 Assault, 1 Rev, another Jet, and then of course a Stardust. The Stardust on summon will of course trigger its effect as well to search you out a Stardust Illumination, and again if Nibiru hits the board you'll lose all 4 of these cards, but you've still got the graveyard recursion of these 2 here, plus you've already got a Jet to play around with, and the Stardust has already searched you out the Illumination, so it can then come back and keep playing. Now obviously the Draco Bat is going to fall off once you've used the Synchro play, so that will go to the graveyard as well. Now you can activate Illumination right here, right now, which is absolutely fine, just to kind of Foolish Burial that trail and you get it out of the way nice and early. But if you don't want to Foolish Burial it, this is the next best option you can do with Illumination because you still control the Stardust. So you want to protect all of your plays going further forward, and the best way to do that is to Synchro into a level 8. So this is going to give you Crystal Wing, and I tend to put it up in the extra monster zone because it keeps it out of the way, and it's a card that I do not intend to leave the board at any point. Now what this does give you is you can now activate Illumination, and Illumination by attempting to Foolish Burial the Stardust, because you control Stardust, will actually allow you to summon it, meaning you get a nice new non-tuner on the board. Now you don't want to use the graveyard effect of Illumination to manipulate the level just yet, you want to be able to maximise your draws from the back of this as well. So what you want to do here is you want to Synchro your Jet plus your Stardust and go into a TG, and this is going to start to allow you to regain your hand advantage, which is really important. You can then use your Stardust plus your Stardust Synchron to go into a level 12, which will be your Crimson Dragon. This will then allow you to draw 1 mandatory off of TG Hyper Librarian, doesn't matter which card you draw. Now at this point you've got so much going on in your graveyard, it's absolutely insane. You could use Jet Synchron's effect to search if you want to, but ultimately you want it to stay in the graveyard because you're going to be able to utilise more utility while it's in the graveyard than anything else. So what you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to bring back your Rev Synchron. But then you also have the ability to use your Stardust Synchron, tributing off your Axel, putting it into the graveyard. This will then allow you to also bring back the Trail, and then you've got a level 1 here, plus a level 4 non-tuner and a level 4 tuner there. So what you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to sync your Rev Synchron plus your Trail. Trail will of course get banished, and you're going to go into Accel. This will then mandatory trigger of Hyper Librarian to draw you 1 card, while also triggering the Stardust effect to spawn you a level 1 token, which is really, really nice. You then want to use Accel Synchron's effect, and this is going to let you send specifically Stardust to the graveyard to increase its level by 4, making it a level 9. It's very important you get to a level 10 because that's where Crimson Dragon is going to come in to cheat you out a Despata. So you're then going to sync the token, which is level 1, with your Accel Synchron, which is a level 9, and you're going to go into your Baron de Fleur. This will then, of course, trigger TG Hyper Librarian to draw another card, so you're replenishing your hand. Now at this point you still have a 4 here and a 5 here, but what you want to do is you want to manipulate the level to get you into a level 8. You can use Crimson Dragon first, which will give you an additional draw because you target the Baron. This will then allow you to spawn out your Despata while putting the Crimson Dragon back into the extra deck. Now you don't want to use Despata's effect right now, you're going to be utilising it a little bit more later on to complete a 2-card hand rip as well. This will, of course, allow you to trigger out Hyper Librarian because, and this is the very important thing as well, you get to special summon a Dragon Synchro monster from your extra deck with the same level as the target monster, but it is treated as a Synchro summon. That is the clause that both Accel Synchron has and Crimson Dragon has, that it treats the summon as a Synchro summon, meaning it will trigger Librarian to give you that additional draw. So as the board state currently stands, you've got a very, very good board. The only things you don't have need for right now is Stardust Synchron and the Librarian. So you can then banish your Illumination, and you've got 2 options here. You can very easily bump the Stardust to make it a level 5, and you've got another level Synchro 10 if you build it that way. But what you're going to want to do is reduce it so it becomes a level 3. It is now up to you whether you feel that a Dark World or no more could be in your opponent's hand and they'll still be able to go absolutely ham. If you are fearful of that, then my opinion, I would say go for your Visas and Mitara, because then this will allow you to search you out your reframing, which gives you a counter trap to negate. It means your opponent's still going to have their full 5 cards in the hand, but at the end of the day, if you're not ripping a Dark Ruler out of their hand, you're not going to gain that advantage anyway. So that's option number 1. Option number 2, which is to complete the hand rip, you actually go into Omega. And the reason this is so good is you use Omega's effect, you rip 1 card from your opponent's hand, you then use Despata to bring Omega back to the board, you then use Omega's effect again, ripping a 2nd card from your opponent's hand. Now, obviously, that gives you loads of plays to work around with. On top of that, if you really, really wanted to as well, keep in mind that if you went the other route of going with the Ari Matara, you'd get the counter trap, but then you could also use Despata to bring back your Stardust Synchron, and then you could sync again for a level 12. So you've got plenty of different options, and that's what's really, really cool about this deck, is it can be varied. Like, literally, if I'm going game 3 and I think my opponent's putting Dark World or no more in, I'd spring this on them because I think they've got less of an answer to it than Omega. And that's pretty much it. So you've got your 4 new cards you've drawn. You'd also still have 3 remaining cards in your opening hand. So these can be additional extenders, they could be back row that you could be able to set up, they could be more counter traps, anything like that. Like, drawing the amount of cards in that as you do is probably more ideal going games 2 and 3 when you're trying to dig for side deck cards than it is just turn 0. And I feel turn 0, a board like this, where it's draw 4, is probably a little bit more effective for me, and then trying to rip from my opponent's hand. Because then the way you've got to look at it here is if your end board ends like this, your opponent's then got to play with 4 cards. 1 card is going to get met with Baron de Fleur, another card will get hit with Crystal Wing, a 3rd will get hit with Despata, plus you've then got to deal with that 1 remaining card, and that 1 remaining card is not going to be much of an issue when you've got a full hand of 7. And then if you flip it on the other side, even if you leave them with 6 cards, 1's going to get hit with a Reframing, 1's going to get hit with Despata, 1's going to hit with Baron, 1's going to get hit with Crystal Wing. They then have 2 more cards to try and finish breaking the board off, and that sometimes can be very, very difficult. So that's it for the combo. Like I said, I will put a link to the direct combos from Wolf in the comments below so you can see, or the description below, so you can see all the different variations that the deck can produce. But I thought this would be an interesting build to kind of look at. It's definitely a deck that I've been working on for quite a while now, whether I wanted to play pure Synchrons or whether I wanted to play with the Adventure Package. I feel the Adventure Package adds a nice layer to the deck, but I still feel that to get the full effect of Synchrons and to feel like you say, you kind of want to be going pure. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you do like, comment, subscribe, share. If you do want to see a pure version of the deck, then by all means, please smash that like button. Getting the video above 50 likes in the first 24 hours will unlock that for you. I may even do a test stand video as well. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. As absolutely always, stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.